best to
save it.
That bus running up.
Jesus. Oh my goodness. Jeez, what? Damn it, the bus is leaving. I thought the bus was leaving. Finally found one. Oh.
Where's Graham?
Yeah.
Things inside the cabin. There's trees and things whizzing past us.
Whizzing.
Yeah, 20 kilometres an hour maximum speed. So it's not really whizzing.
Whizzing is
stretching. No worries, enjoy your tour
Thank you.
and your lunch. Yeah, it's a great place for lunch sitting up here.
Thank you.
No worries.
On the coast. Just one moment, folks. Excuse me. Can you always keep on the left-hand side of the road, please? Thank you. And what happened was the skipper kept coming. He thought that he had plenty of water in front of him. His helmet just on the other side of it. That would be the best viewing position for watching whales during September, October, November. So if you come back during those months, I'm going to try and get that spot, sit there for a couple of hours, you'll see literally dozens of whales going past. And on the left here, this is called Catherine Bay. It's one of our favourite bays to come to as well. When my beautiful wife turned 60 on the 11th of April, we came over to Rottnest. That was a Thursday. We had my daughter, her husband and my two beautiful little granddaughters on board. We had 2 nights there. And Catherine Bay is always very good for catching crays. Well, we set the pots the first night. Guess what? The next morning we had none. Using our service today. You've been a beautiful crowd, very responsive, and I do appreciate that. But thank you very much, folks, and I do wish you well for the rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. At this time of the day, also they accumulate underneath these big Moreton Bay figs. You might see a few drunk Quokkas around the place, folks, if they stay here too long. Folks, if you do want something to eat, if you go straight ahead and turn left, that will take you into the main settlement area. We're just going to go very softly here. If people can keep an eye out on the left, that would be appreciated. This lady, can you encourage that one to move? Can you encourage that one to move? Thank you. Righto. Oh, very good job, young lady.
Oh,
Right,
no,
see,
no.
that's what they do. Let me know if it goes anywhere near the wood. Very, very strategic during the Second World War. It's where the women of the Royal Australian Navy were accommodated. Would you believe? There were 500
Thank you very much. Well done.
We'll see you this afternoon.
But this is one of the most popular boardwalks and that person there is very lucky so this weed here, folks, a lot of copper or catfish. There's a family of fish. About 15 years ago, there's some Everybody's on?
Thanks, Kev.
Now folks, for those that do want to fish in Western Australia, you do need a recreational fishing licence. If you want to include crayfish, it's about $65. And there are limits to what you can take. For instance, with the crayfish, you can take 8 per day per licence, which is really more than enough to eat. The crayfish tail, they're beautiful, but they're very, very rich, so you can't really eat too much of it. The season used to be just 6 months of the year, but a few years ago there were some studies done. It was deemed that the numbers of crayfish were absolutely prolific, so they extended the season to 12 months of the year. So 12 months of the year, we can now dive for crayfish, we can set cray pots, and we can take out 8 per licence per day. When we're cleaning our fish the next morning, we clean and everything goes over the side, all of the unwanted bits of the fish. I can tell you that within about 2 to 3 minutes, we have our live-in resident vacuum cleaners in the form of very big stingrays. They come in and they pick up all the heads and the guts, and they do a fantastic job. So we're just round the corner here. We're going to be having a quick look at Little Salmon Bay. This is one of the most popular swimming spots on the island, and is extremely busy during the summer months. Now folks, can you see this sign that I've got here?
Private
See that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got that not long after I started doing the commentary tours, because as I went past people like these guys expecting to be picked up on the hop on hop off, when I drove past I would get what's called a single digit finger salute. And I thought, I wonder what they're upset about. I was getting clenched fists, angry faces, and I thought, I've worked it out. So I get this little sign and I hold it up now and I get smiles, thumbs up, no problem. I get a lot of blank looks too, but that's okay. Now just out to the left there folks, you might see some little buoys in the water, B-U-O-Y-S. And that signals the snorkel trail at Little Salmon Bay. So if you are going to be coming back or you're staying on folks, that is an absolutely fantastic thing to do. Take you about 45 minutes just to leisurely swim around. And there's little plaques underneath those little buoys that will tell you all about the fish, the coral and the environment. It's just magnificent. Now as we go around this corner, look out to the left folks, that volcanic shaped structure is an osprey nest. That's over 80 years old, that one. We've got 14 of them around the island. There's another one under construction. But the osprey, they're part of the eagle family. They live 20 to 30 years. And with the breeding pairs, when one of them dies, the other one will vacate the nest. In comes another breeding pair. That new incoming pair will generally do some renovations, maybe add an extra bathroom or a bedroom, make it their own, and then the cycle continues. Directly ahead of us coming up, folks, is Salmon Bay. So we've got Little Salmon that we just came past, and this is now Salmon Bay. And that is the longest beach on the island. There's those blank books I was telling you about. So getting back to the osprey, folks, because they're members of the eagle family, they've got absolutely incredible eyesight. Their main diet obviously is fish. They're very, very good hunters. What they'll do is they'll hover at about 30 metres, identify their target, send pretty much a vertical dive into the water head first. They then extend their legs, and their talons have got barbs on them. So once they grab a fish, it normally stays caught, and then they can take it back to mum and the babies to have a nice feed. So we're now coming out of the park at Point Blue. We're going to be heading up to the Lighthouse. Some of you may be able to see it in the distance there, just a little bit off to the right. So the original lighthouse was built mid-1850s. It was about half that size, and it was deemed that the light was very poor. So there were quite a few wrecks that were happening at that point. So they thought, right, we're going to dismantle this one, we'll put up another one, which is the existing one you can see there. About 2 weeks after they finished this one, there was another ship that was wrecked, and as a result of that, there was another lighthouse built at Bathurst Point in Thomson Bay, in the main settlement area, to give the skippers a better idea of exactly where they were. And I will tell you the full tragic story involving that lighthouse as we come back along the northern Basin beaches. For those that use our hop on hop off, it is a 600-metre walk uphill, and I have a bit of a joke. I say that if you're on the hop on hop off, if you've got kids that are annoying you and you want to wear them out, this is definitely your stop. By the time they get up the stop, they'll be worn out, and they'll give you absolutely no trouble for the rest of the day. I say that all with love, folks, absolutely, after my wife and I having 4. But again, our volunteer guides play a very big role in information and education, and we've got some of our guides up here from 9:30 in the morning through till about 2:30 in the afternoon, and they can take you right up to the top. You won't have time to do that today because it's a half-hour tour, but if you're staying on the island, it's definitely worthwhile. Just look back to the left, folks, you get a magnificent view of Salmon Bay. And I can tell you the view from the top of the lighthouse, folks, is just amazing. If it is too windy, then unfortunately they won't let you out on that top platform, but if the wind is not so strong, oh, it's just an amazing view. Folks, but if you just look up towards the lighthouse, you'll see that there are several Norfolk pines. Now, these trees were very, very important back in the days of the early explorers. Those very brave men that in their sailing ships would, go to all four corners of the earth. Very brave, not knowing whether they'd make it back or not. But they did have a strategy to help with their survival, and that was that whenever they found new land or territory, they would plant several of these Norfolk pines. The reason that they did that was because if ever they lost a mast in a big storm or a secondary mast, they could always go and chop down Norfolk pine and use it as a substitute or stand-in mast. Now the timber of the Norfolk pine is not ideal long-term as a mast. When they got back to their homeland or a port that they could repair, they would need to take out Norfolk pine and put in the proper timber. I think that was a pretty smart strategy on their part. Very long to get there. Now, if you do keep an eye out to the left, folks, underneath these big trees, you just might see some quokkas. We're heading up to Wadjemup Lighthouse. Now, if you do see any quokkas underneath these trees, folks, these will be the healthy version of the Rottnest Island quokka, eating what it should, leaves, twigs, berries, as distinct from the quokkas in the settlement area outside the bakery, eating the pies, pasties, sausage rolls, donuts and vanilla slices. Big difference in nutrition. I will talk about the quokkas in some detail on the way down. If you do see any, just yell out. Right-hand side, folks, this house was the original lighthouse keeper's home back in 1992. This lighthouse and also the one in Bathurst were fully automated. So very sadly we said goodbye to the lighthouse keepers, and a couple of Rangers families moved in. They were pretty excited, I can tell you. There are some structures up here which are not connected to... Oh, look at these people, I want to get on the bus. No, 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 no. Yep, there's some structures up here, folks, that are not connected to the lighthouse, namely observation posts and signal boxes. These were all occupied by the women of the Royal Australian Navy. They did a fantastic job. Would you believe, with just a simple slide rule, if they saw a ship in the ocean, they could work out how far it was away, how fast it was going, and how long that vessel was. They would then relay that information to the gunnery boys. So fellas, a question for you. Who knows a smart female? You know what's good for you? You put your hand up about now, fellas. Now folks, we are going to be here just for a minute and a half to get a photo of the lighthouse. We will be stopping a little bit later on for toilet stops and the like. But you've already seen the view from Oliver Hill, so this one is quite similar. If you look over at about 45 degrees, you'll actually see the Oliver Hill 9.2 inch gun just in the distance there. Folks, if you do want a photo of the lighthouse, please come down the front of the bus and you can get a photo, beautiful photo through the windscreen. Second World War. It's where the women of the Royal Australian Navy were accommodated. Would you believe? There were 500. Just voices down a little bit, folks. 500 folks of the women of the Royal Australian Navy passed through that house over a period of the 6 years. Amazing.
Excuse me, Kevin?
Yeah.
Kevin, sorry to bother you. There's a little bit of a leakage of water.
Sorry?
There's some water leaking from the top. And there's coming on the front seat here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to tilt myself towards the left. So I don't want you to...
Yeah, no worries, mate. That's good. Yep.
Alright.
So folks, they kept all the ladies out here. Anybody have any idea why? To keep them away from the 2,500 troops at the Kingstown barracks. That's why. History does tell us, folks, in all seriousness, there was a very well-worn path from the barracks out to that house over the course of the 6 years of the war, made primarily in the middle of the night. So you can work that one out yourself. Now folks, our beautiful quokkas, they are nocturnal, which obviously means that they generally sleep during the day. And we have 12 to 15,000 of them on the island. They're everywhere. But during the day, you don't see too many apart from the ones that are outside the bakery. The ones that live out here, folks, will live around about 10 years. The ones that are living outside the bakery, sadly, they do not live 10 years. So the diet of the pies and the sausage rolls does not help them at all. So that's why we have regulations in place that you're not to feed them and not to touch them. Now they are marsupials, folks, so they're very similar to kangaroos and wallabies. And the only other place that you will find quokkas is down the southwest of Western Australia, down near Albany. So they're in the bush there. There are no natural predators on Rottnest, but down at Albany, the ones that are out in the bush, obviously they've got to contend with foxes. Now again, the females of the species are amazing because at 12 months of age, they can conceive. And they have a gestational period, wait for it, of just 27 days. And all the ladies went, bring it on. But it's quite remarkable. So they can have one forming inside the womb. They can have another one going in and out of the pouch. Just about to give this young man a fright. And there's also another one, folks, that maybe 6 months of age or older. These people are running for this bus. That one is not going to pick them up either, I can tell you. So they're running in false hope. This is where I get my friend the sign out again, folks. Oh, I love this sign.
Oh, they're running for the bus.
There we go. There's nothing there, folks. That's what I call a nothing burger. Anyway, these quokkas are amazing, folks. They have very poor eyesight. That's why they can be approached very easily. But you do need to remember that they are wild animals, and on many occasions they do bite. So especially if you're traveling with kids. In fact, I was just walking through the settlement area this morning. I had to go down to the restaurant that makes your lunch. And there was a young boy sitting there with one sitting on his lap and he was patting it. About 6 months ago, a young lady did that, and the quokka ended up biting her on her right arm. So you cannot take any chances. Now, does anybody know what this triangle is on the right-hand side coming up? Anybody have a clue what that might be? Whoever said ships, navigation, yes. So that one you can see pointing down, bright orange, easily visible from the ocean or a boat. There's another one just coming into view now, which is pointing up. That's also orange in colour on the other side. So if somebody wants to come into Green Island, which is a bird sanctuary, the left here. All that they do, they line those markers up. That will guarantee safe passage in, and to exit they do the same, and that will guarantee them a safe exit. This area down here is where the limestone was taken to build that lighthouse that we just saw, and also built our Supreme Court buildings in Perth and our beautiful Perth Mint. Bus stop coming up here, folks, for our Hop On Hop Off Explorer, and it's number 10 Strickland Bay. And would you believe the beach is a 900-metre walk? Probably wondering, why would you want to walk 900 metres when you've got all these other bus stops that are very, very close to the water? Well, the reason is that Strickland Bay is one of the best surfing spots in the world. It's listed in the top 50 and was the site, in fact, of the May 2021 Rip Curl World Surfing Championships. Unfortunately, at that time we had COVID, so there were no spectators allowed, but it was live streamed on a couple of social media platforms. But it was interesting, not long after I started working on the island, that'll be 2 years next month, I picked up a couple of young guys. I was doing the Explorer, hop on, hop off. Picked up a couple of young guys at Strickland Bay. They were so excited. They couldn't wait to tell me that they had the best surfing experience of their life. They were the only 2 humans out there. The surf was absolutely perfect. And the bonus for them was they got to share it with about 25 of those dolphins. And as they took off in each wave, there was 4 or 5 dolphins that were taking off on the same waves, surfing in. And there were 4 little babies right out the back, and when they were out the back waiting for the next waves to come through, they were coming up within about 2 metres, checking out what these humans were. So I think that's a story that those lads will be sharing with their future children and future grandchildren. Just amazing. Folks, the dimensions of Rottnest, we are 11.4 kilometres wide, east to west. And 4 kilometres the other way. So, you're going to think about hiring a bike, riding out to West End, which is incorporating some of the other beautiful bays and beaches. Probably going to be doing about 25 kilometres on the day. And just keep in mind that does require a certain fitness level. Not sure you can do that. You can always hire an e-bike available on the island, or even easier, you can jump on the Hop On Hop Off Explorer. We do have a fantastic whale watching season, September, October, November. What the whales do, what they're doing at the moment, is they head up north to have their young, and they come back down very close to the West Australian coast, very close to Rottnest, with their babies heading back to the Antarctic. So I have to say the 3 best spots are out at West End, also Ricey Beach, and also City of York Bay. Now, on the other side of this hill is Rocky Bay, where Mum and Dad used to bring us for our school holidays. And folks, a couple of times a week we would ride our bikes in, my mate and I, into the settlement, go and check out the local talent, go and watch the movie. By the time we got back out here it was about 10 o'clock, maybe a bit later. Pretty tired by now, pushing into about a 25 knot sea breeze. And in the distance, at night, you would see my mum and dad's boat, because my beautiful late mum, guess what she would do, folks? She would leave the light on. How many ladies have done that for your kids at home? Yeah? Fantastic. I remember one time we came back from the movies, left our bikes outside the old post office, came back, and they were gone. I thought, oh no. Had a look around, eventually looked inside the old post office. Somebody, thinking they were doing us a good turn, had locked them up for the night. So we had no way of getting back out here at that time of night. So we went around to the local police station, knocked on his door. Not sure how well we were going to be received late at night. Explained to him what had happened and said, look, would you mind giving us a lift? He said, yep, no worries, boys, come around the back. Guess what was around the back, folks? A paddy wagon. And who do they put in a paddy wagon? People that they arrest. People that have played up. So anyway, he unlocks the back door, in we get, into the back. Puts the padlock on. That was a very disconcerting feeling. Grand Island tour heading west at Parakeet. And halfway out here, folks, I said to my mate Phil, just imagine what our parents would be thinking now if they knew where we were at the back of a police van. They would be wondering, what did those boys get up to? But anyway, he was fantastic, that policeman, dropped us off. And I think, probably like a lot of you folks, that one good turn deserves another. So the next day we took him in 6 cooked crayfish. And he was very happy with that, I can tell you. Now folks, I'm going to show you where Mum and Dad's mooring was for 35 years. And this mooring was actually gifted to my dad. And this chap had a spare mooring down at Geordie Bay. I can still remember that afternoon, my dad and this chap Victor talking about this mooring. It's the one on the extreme left there, folks, right tucked up in the corner. And Victor asked Dad if he wanted the mooring, and Dad said, oh, that would be fantastic. So the next day, we took this chap's boat around to Geordie Bay, had a big winch on the front of it. It was a big 50-foot timber classic. I mean, back in 1969, they were all timber in those days. It was before fiberglass. And we get around to Geordie Bay and he winches this mooring up, probably about 1.5 meters below the surface. And we came around to Rocky Bay at about 5 knots, and he said to Dad, where would you like it? And Dad nominated the spot, and that was where our mooring was for 35 years. So my dad's mooring, would you believe, was the number 6 mooring at Rocky Bay. And now there's over 180 moorings, folks. So there were very few boats that were going into Rocky Bay at that point. And it was just an absolute privilege to be able to go there for 3 weeks for our school holidays. So we go fishing every day. We catch crays every day. We'd have to send some of the crays back because the fridge wasn't big enough to hold them. So my brother would go down to Fremantle and pick up crayfish. And my mate Phil and I, we were given responsibility to do with everything crayfish. It included catching the bait, putting the bait in the pots, setting the pots, which was very important. You had to look for good spots. And pulling those pots the next morning, sizing the crayfish because they all had to be legal limit. And then giving them to Mum. Mum would cook them, and then we get a chance to eat some of them, which was the best part. One day we came into Marjorie Bay, which is just off to the right here, looking for some new territory. We found this hole, and we thought, okay, will we chance it? Because there was actually a chance that maybe we wouldn't get the pot back. It was that difficult. Anyway, we were young, we thought we'll do it. Came back the next morning. We always had a glass bottom bucket on board. You could actually put that on the water and you could see where the crate pot was and if it was hooked around a reef or anything. And folks, you will not believe what I saw. It was just amazing. I focused on the crate pot. All I could see was a mass of crayfish feelers coming out through the top of the crate pot out the side. Now folks, have a guess how many crayfish were in that pot?
10.
More than 10? Any more guesses?
20.
Folks, we had 39 crayfish in that pot. It was a normal regulation size pot, but they were all stacked on top of each other. That was the good news. The bad news was 36 of them were undersized and went back. And that's absolutely okay. We had 3 very big crays in that pot, because keep in mind you can only keep 8 per day. But what an experience that was. As the pot came over the side, all you could hear was this noise. Anyone know what that was? Crayfish tails clapping. It's amazing. Now the natural predator of the crayfish, folks, anybody know what it is? Octopus. So what the ockies do is they crawl into the pot, they'll identify a crayfish, and they wrap their tentacles around it, and they emit an enzyme which turns that shell from being very, very hard to very, very soft. And in doing so, that octopus can then get a tentacle into the crayfish tail, one into the head, and they literally suck everything out of that crayfish. It's clinical. So when you pull that cray pot the next day, and you see this crayfish sitting in the pot, it looks normal. And then when you pick it up, there's just no weight attached to it at all. It's just amazing. Now folks, out to the left is Cathedral Rocks, West End. That's where the Australian fur sails live. If you've got really good eyesight, you might be able to see little black bodies bobbing up and down in the water or on Cathedral Rocks, but that's where they live. There is a viewing platform just around to the left there, folks. There's a little trail to walk down. And that bay in there is very popular with day trippers when the weather's good. Come in there, just drop an anchor, do a bit of fishing, bit of swimming. Now, a little known secret for you folks, Rottnest has a crocodile resident. Anybody heard that before?
No.
Now, if you don't believe me, look straight ahead and tell me what you see. Crocodile Rock? Ah! Doesn't it? Look at those waves out there, folks. Aren't they just beautiful? And folks, with these rocks that are closest to it, on the right hand side, who can see the dog sitting down looking at its food bowl? You see it?
No.
On the right hand side? Some of you might see it. Might see a hippopotamus with its mouth open. Cove out the right hand side there, folks, that's called Mabel Cove. It's named after one of the daughters of one of our long serving governors. In fact, he had 8 daughters and 1 wife, and he named a lot of the bays and beaches after his family. So you've got Mabel Cove, Nancy Cove, Geordie Bay, Catherine Bay, and others, Fays Bay. One of his daughters must have fallen out of favour. Her name was Joan, because she wasn't named after a beautiful bay or a beach. She was named after a rock. Joan Rock. Now, how would you feel, girls, if your siblings were named after beautiful bays and beaches and you got named after a rock? I think she would have been a little bit annoyed with that one. West End, folks, 40 kilometres out is where the continental shelf drops off. Going back in the early 60s, there was a chap on his boat at Rottnest, and he thought, I'm just going to go out there and see if there's any fish. Very, very deep water, so it's not fishing where you drop a line, but he started trawling. He started catching marlin. Word got out every weekend. Also, sometimes during the week, there were boats out there catching these marlin. back in those days they would catch and keep, whereas now it's called catch and release, so you're not allowed to keep them. Sometimes they put a tag on now, also for scientific purposes, but there's still plenty of marlin out there. In fact, the Fremantle Sailing Club each year have a regatta. There's normally about half a dozen boats that go out to what's called the trench, where the shelf drops off. And the last time they were out, they got 6 big marlin over the weekend, which they released. But one of them was so big, they brought it alongside and put a tape measure over it as best they could. Estimated that fish to be well over 250 kilos. I think the person, the fisherman that was on the end of the rod, I think he would have slept very well for the next few nights. It would have been absolutely exhausted. I remember back in 1969 when I was 16, I had a chance to go out on the trench with my mate and one of Dad's mates actually, and his son. Skipper was called Lloyd Allen, his son Graham. They were terrific chaps. We had our first strike at 11:30 in the morning out at the trench. That fish broke the line after about an hour. We rigged up again, and at 2:30 had a second strike. Would you believe it? At 7:30 at night, that was 5 hours later, we had that fish alongside. Of course, 7:30 at night, the sun is starting to go down. We needed to get back into Rocky Bay, and back in those years there were no lights on the market, so we ended up getting my dad on the radio. Dad organised for some torches to be put on the bottom of the top marker, and at 9:30 at night we came through a very narrow passage, and I'm going to show you that passage just around this next corner. Folks, you'll see a green and a red marker. You see that out there, just to the left? That's where we had to come through. The northwesterly change actually that was following us in, which means that there was the possibility of waves breaking through that passage, so I can tell you we were very much on high alert as we came through. I was sitting up on top looking backwards just to make sure there were no waves that were coming. That rock out there that you can see on the left hand side, that was where one of the lights was placed and the other one was plopped on the land. So lots of great memories. Keeping in mind Dad's mooring was number 6. Have a look at how many moorings are out there now. Just amazing. Explorer, I'll pull over at the memorial. Now, any folks from New South Wales on the bus? Yes. Fantastic. So you'll know the Hawkesbury River and Bobbin Head, and those beautiful Halverson boats that were built there. So there was a chap here called Roland Smith, and Roland did a lot of work in this particular area of the island to do with moorings and navigational leads and markers. When he died in 1972, some boaties got together and built this memorial to him, including a caricature of his boat called the Pollyanna, which was a 60-foot Halverson. Absolutely magnificent vessel, and would you believe the current owners have just spent over $1 million on that boat, restoring it to its original condition. Explorer travelling through Parakeet East. So absolutely magnificent boats, and when I was 11 I had the good fortune of going to the eastern states with Mum and Dad. We went all over Australia and New South Wales. We went up the Hawkesbury to Bobbin Head, and I saw these Halverson boats being built. Now 11 years of age, folks, you're too young to fall in love with a young lady, but I tell you what, I fell in love with these boats. I was absolutely obsessed by them, and to the point where got married, a couple of kids, it was time to buy a boat. As I'm searching, I couldn't believe it, there was a Halverson for sale in Perth, and childhood dream was realised. I ended up buying this boat. It was just, it was fantastic. So we'd come across, rendezvous with mum and dad on their mooring. We'd have to make sure the weather was good because they're primarily river boats, so they've got a very round bilge and they do pop around in the water, so we'd always have to make sure the weather was good. But we just had some fantastic holidays over here. Just had our 2 young boys at that point, and then went on to have Stephanie and Matthew. So all 4 of our kids have actually grown up at Rottnest on the boat during holidays. That little bit of construction work over there, folks. There's toilets and showers being built there for the boaties up at Narrow Neck. And this area that we're in now is actually called Narrow Neck. If you look at a map, you'll see that it's very narrow. It's only 220 metres across.